Namaste. Welcome, everybody. Let's start with a short moment of centeredness in the heart. Close your eyes and bring the awareness in the chest area, in the middle of the chest, a little to the right, one finger width to the right. We ask the question, who am I? Going deeper and deeper, beyond the identification with the body, sensations, emotions, thoughts, mind. Stillness. Keeping the awareness of the heart. We gently open the eyes. I hope you are all well, healthy, present, and staying home. Actually, this, whenever you hear this stay home, remember the real home is in the heart. So this is a beautiful pointer now of staying in the heart more. Tonight, in this satsang, I'm going to speak about the psychological and spiritual meanings of self-awareness, and then more about the undivided space of the soul, and we'll have also a practice related to this. There are other aspects or other small topics, but they are somehow under the umbrella of this, and so I will not elaborate more now. But before starting, I would like to make some announcements. First of all, some very good news. At the request of some of you, we are going to start a silent meditation retreat online, which is going to be offered between 1st of May and 10th of May, or 11th of May, 10 days. There will be also the possibility of having a 3-day retreat. So those who are beginners, or I recommend to start with 3 days, just to see how it works for you in these new conditions. And then if you want to go further, you are very welcome. Or if this still feels inspired for you, you can go deeper. So we'll have 3 and 10-day silent meditation retreat online, both offered in Europe, and I'm going to give this retreat, but we want to offer also a live silent online retreat in America as well. So Cloud will do this. And then apart from this, there will be a 3-day silent meditation retreat online in French, which will be given by Deborah. And then the 3 and 10-day silent meditation retreat in Spanish, given by Luna and Valentina. So many beautiful retreats that are offered together in this time. We will be together, and I invite you to do this together with us. Also, apart from this, I am inviting you to be involved in a project that is coordinated by another very dear Hridaya teacher, Ian, about supporting India. He is having a foundation, Anahatama. This last period, this year actually, in the beginning of this year, 4 wells were built in India simply because of mostly because of our donations in Hridaya, Mazunte. People, when came to bhajans, just offer some money as a donation, and these donations went there and were able to create 4 wells which are providing water, fresh water for many families. Now, with the coronavirus situation in India, a lot of activities stopped, and is one of the greatest migrations in India that is happening now, and people are literally starving. So there is this commitment, and this project, Food for India, is working with with an Indian partner there, and we will provide food the idea is like this: $6 is enough for buying rice for a family for 1 week. So just imagine this: $6 is nothing for those who have a pet, a cat, a dog. You know, this is mostly what you will spend for 1 week in our let's say more civilized countries, or more economically, more correctly said, economically developed countries. And this is what will provide food for a whole family of 5 people for the whole week, just $6. So this is a practice. So, and I'm emphasizing this because, yes, we are opening our heart and we are having good intentions, but in the end, it's a matter of making this choice. Are we involved in this or not? Are we helping these people, or are we contributing with this or not? I'm also very cautious, and we had proposals from during years from different foundations, and I always look that this money should be directly only there, not for supporting traveling to India or other things. And I know Yan, and I totally guarantee for him and for his intentions. Therefore, this is something in which I am very confident that all our efforts and money are going in the right direction. You will have in the chat part of this links for our meditation retreats, and for friends there will be tomorrow, starting for tomorrow, so please look in the website tomorrow in the French website. And for Mazunte, for Mexico, is already set. And also you have this link with the donation for India. There is also a beautiful movie. You may see that tears appear in your eyes. Is a very moving video about the situation there. But because it's quite an urgent situation, they will need to take this money and use them. So it will be open, the donation, only till tomorrow. So please do this. Maybe we'll continue with this. And then, because this was just for 1 week for 500 families, but definitely this needs much more support. So the project can continue and should continue. Now let's come to our satsang. Just as a short recapitulation of what happened last satsang, we spoke about the importance of developing this inner willingness to wake up, that pure intention, icha in the yogic tradition, a pure intention, not an egotic intention, but a pure radiance of the heart, an intention without an object, which is that authentic, non-personal motivation. We speak about following this Gandhi model about an inner, non-violent revolution. It's not a civil war. It's not about fighting and repressing our thoughts. And we will speak more about this tonight. We will also speak about the way in which the fire of awareness can be awakened in our being. We had also that practice of amplifying this tapas, this fire of commitment. We also spoke about the being values, those values or core values Abraham Maslow was referring to. And we emphasize the fact that cultivating these being values like compassion, beauty, love, presence, humbleness is not an option or a hobby or something like this, but is a duty as conscious human beings in order to transform ourselves. We spoke also about self-awareness and how this feels. It's, of course, beyond the common feeling, but we try to point to this ineffable. And we had also some practices. We have some notes. So after every such satsang, we prepare some notes for you. And also you have a list of the practices. This, I hope, will help you to meditate what essential values of these core values resonate deeply within you. So I invite to continue to meditate on this. Then we had that practice of the sacred fire of the heart, amplifying this fire and feeling the intimacy with this fire. Then Abhaya Mudra, that mudra of removing fears, and then looking also another practice of looking for our motivating values in the way in which they are applying in our life and how in our daily life, and how in the end of the day we can explore and see what were the motivations beyond our actions. I would like to apply, because I try to make these satsangs as dense as possible to provide a lot of practices and advice, but is also good to meditate and reflect on that. And it will be very good if you will create groups, at least 2 people. You can even communicate on WhatsApp, these groups of remembering, of self-remembering. Then we will use these channels not just for socializing, but to remember about ourselves. So just the presence, remembering and helping, supporting each other in this. This is happening ideally, and we would like to happen this even more in the Sangha, in the spiritual community, in our communities, but now we can create such an online community, and instead of just spreading many sometimes irrelevant messages between us, an invitation. Did you meditate? What was for you this practice of, did you practice Abhaya Mudra? What was for you the more motivating aspects in this day, and so on. Now, also regarding these satsangs, I will start with an advice about listening and reading the notes, not just once, and I would say 3 times. There is a saying that exists both in Christian and Sufi tradition. Any prayer, it is said, any prayer may be heard and granted by higher powers only if it's uttered 3 times. First, for the peace of the souls of one's parents, then for the peace of one's neighbor, and then only after that, the third one, for oneself, for the peace of ourselves. So somehow starting from this, so it's not just about me thinking about parents, neighbors, and yourself. In the same kind of gradation, we can speak about a way of going deeper into this very act of listening. And first, we can say the listening or the reading can be done with and it starts with from the common mind, which looks for informations. There you learn, you understand logically what is shared. Then the second time is more with an attention that applies to yourself. So it's like an individual reflection to that, an intimacy with the teachings, how this will reflect to myself, how they resonate in me. This is the second time. And the third time would be with an open attention, with an attention which is freed from expectations, projections. And there is like you'll wonder of words, sounds, meanings, and then going beyond them, referring to that pure awareness. So that teachings are flowing, and at the same time, there is a presence there. And I'm emphasizing the presence. So that awareness, self-awareness. And only thus we can speak of a full actualization of such teachings. And then they will blossom through such a proper attitude. Yes? Now I'm going to speak about the perspective of psychology in connection with self-awareness, since we will contemplate self-awareness more, we need to understand what would be the difference between the psychological approach of self-awareness and the spiritual approach in self-awareness. In psychology, self-awareness is about being mindful of your inner life, of different aspects of personality as psychology understands them. But there can be even a concern, can you be too self-aware? So can we make this self-awareness too much? And indeed, if we approach in the psychological way, apart from the advantages and the remarkable positive effects of self-awareness, which psychology also recognizes, it is also a concern, and it was observed that this kind of too much psychological self-awareness can lead to hesitation, to twist ourselves and bring a kind of unbearable state of confusion, of micro-analyzing every nuance of our thoughts and actions. And of course, this will be still from the perspective of our thoughts, of our limited mind. And in psychology, there are two forms of self-awareness. There is internal self-awareness and external self-awareness. The internal self-awareness or private self-awareness would be a process in which we take the position of an observer of our thoughts, emotions, but again, this observer is still in our personality, still our ego, our mind. For example, noticing the fact that you cannot stop a thought that is coming repetitively, or a song that is running in your mind. And then, of course, this can bring a frustration. So people who focus their internal awareness tend to become more aware of their feelings and beliefs. So they are sometimes more likely to stick to their personal values because they are acutely aware of how their actions make them feel, how their emotions are there, and the connection between these emotions and actions. But this, and even in psychology is observed that this can create a problem. Now, there can be also, again, from the psychology perspective, an external self-awareness or public self-awareness when we become aware of how we appear to others. We, as you know, it happens that we start speculating about how others may perceive us, what they would think about us, and so on. And this also can have some effects because they may compel people to act in a dramatic way, to impress others, or make people to adhere socially to some beliefs or norms. So we can say that we are tamed by the social environment. We are moved to act in such a way in which people would be satisfied. Well, we imagine that people will become satisfied. Again, as a result of this, we tend to stick to group norms, to try to avoid situations in which we imagine that we may look too bad or would feel embarrassed. And this also is problematic because it can create a tendency to be more controlled and not open to creativity, or not wanting to take some risks, or the fear of looking stupid or wrong in public. Or on the contrary, there may be some people who want to provoke others, but from the same ego base. And the solution in psychology, the solution which psychology gives to this over self-awareness, and again, I'm emphasizing the fact that this awareness is still happening, the observer is still the personality. The solution would be a kind of artificial forgetfulness of the attention on yourself, of the ego reactions, basically, by focusing on others. But here, a problem may come as well, because when somebody tries to forget himself, he remembers that he's trying to forget himself. So trying with the mind to control the mind leads to what that metaphor is saying, the blind leading the blind. So this metaphor of Jesus, the blind leading the blind, is pointing to the very same thing. It's the mind trying to control the mind, or me trying to fix myself or improve myself just with my mind, or just with my personal powers. So the mind that needs to be controlled is actually the same mind that does the controlling. And this is a kind of vicious circle if we are staying just in the mind, or if we are understanding self-awareness only as a psychological awareness of emotions or thoughts. Also, becoming unconscious, just lost in daily lives, is not a solution, as we know. And then we kind of having a problem with this. This kind of psychological self-awareness reminds me of a story in the Sufi tradition with that character Nasruddin, a funny character there. And it is said that Nasruddin went to a bank to cash a check. And there the teller asked him if he could identify himself. Yes, I can, Nasruddin said. And then he looked in his pocket and he took a mirror and he was looking at his features. Yes, that's me. All right, that's me. So we tend to identify ourselves in this way. We look at our features of ourselves. So the fact that both ego and the self, the ultimate self, say I, may be a source of confusion and of misidentification. The well-informed ego says truly, I am what I know myself to be. I am what I consider myself. I am all this body, mind. I am all what I know myself. even do some psychological work, I know myself as all of this. So this is what the well-informed ego would say. But the real self says merely, I am. And we need to understand the power of this I am. Because in it, we drop any thought. In it, we drop any identification, any image, projection, hope, stories. It's just this I am. I am is even more powerful and more profound than I am Shiva, or I am God, or I am Brahman, or whatever. Because such an approach, such a statement is still a statement which is done with the mind and continues with some identifications or some ideas. We developed this topic in the Hridaya silent meditation retreats. But the I am is a condition in which you drop. At a certain time in your life, you learned about God or about Shiva or about somebody. I am is there before you knew about this and that. This is what Ramana Maharshi recommends. This is what Nisargadatta Maharaj said that was his method. Stay with this I am. So the solution would be becoming unself-conscious by being self-conscious, self with a capital S now. So by being self-conscious in that ultimate sense, or in that I am, you start forgetting that identification with my emotion, my problems. And still this, I realize that is still hard to explain in words because it shouldn't be understood as a fight between a higher self and the ego and so on, between some good or bad parts of ourselves, but rather the solution would be rather a cooperation with and in the wholeness of ourselves. And how this is possible? Well, the real solution is self-inquiry. We are coming into that again and again, asking, who am I? In that humbleness, honesty, who am I? And this is liberating from any strategy or strain to control, a transformation based on stillness. I am. It is a way of simply bringing awareness to something in you you constantly ignore. Stillness. So I'm going to even come with a principle related to this. The less we identify with who we think we are, the more likely we are to discover who we really are. So the less we identify with who we think we are, the more likely are we to discover who we really are. So letting go identifications. In yoga, in general, in the Kashmir Shaivist tradition in particular, there is this statement that a conscious human being is changed when the awareness of herself is changed. So we change ourselves by changing the awareness of ourselves, how we understand, perceive ourselves, what we consider ourselves to be. And this may seem somehow confusing now, because we take ourselves so much as being this body, mind, and so on. But you start knowing yourself more intimately in this stillness through meditation, and then this makes sense. In this regard, great Sufi master Tarikavi said, when you have found yourself, you have knowledge. Until then, you can have only opinions. Opinions are based on habit and what you conceive to be convenient. The study of the way requires self-encounter with yourself. You have not met yourself yet. The only advantage of meeting others in the meantime is that one of them may present you to yourself. Before you do that, you'll possibly imagine that you have met many times yourself, but the truth is that when you meet yourself, you come to a permanent endowment of knowledge that is like no other experience on earth. So it is a path of a self-encounter. You meet yourself, and then you meet others in order to help you to present somebody with this aspiration that somebody will present yourself to yourself. And then that knowledge this master is referring to is that same jnana, the same knowledge the yogis are speaking, the knowledge of that essence of the spiritual path, of the spiritual heart, of this I am. Now, before feeling the sincere aspiration to meet yourself, so as a preparation on this path of meeting yourself, you may still feel the need for fulfillment, some ego desires, demands, and feelings which may seem more compelling. And this is normal. It should be accepted like this. It may be frustrating and not helping if we would fight or try to just repress our personal desires or attachments and only try to follow all the time just sublime aspects of our being, when there are still some aspects which are crying for satisfaction of passions or drives in our life. Similarly, we should not look for this transcendental reality as a mean to escape from problems of life. So this would be a preparation, accepting and embracing. And I'm going to speak more and mostly now in this satsang about this complete embracement, about an undivided space of the soul. The way in which we can look at ourselves, the way in which we can look at our emotions even, not only in that ultimate spiritual perspective of stillness, but also our emotions in a way in which is not limiting. For example, for me, this self-awareness, including this psychological domain, is not about what I feel now emotionally. It's not about looking at what emotions, how do I feel now, what emotions are there. it is rather this awareness of the heart, this awareness of the domain of my soul, is rather a perception of a continuous inner psychological space, not divided by concepts and forms and names. So therefore, without a specific emotion and even without thoughts. So exactly as in contemplation of a beautiful landscape or of a sunrise, you don't want the mind to react to the specific perception, and you prefer to remain in that sense of wonderment, which is an aesthetic unifying beauty. You wouldn't want to look at the domain of your soul in a separating way. So when we look at the sunrise, for example, it is not the sun and then the birds and then the sky and then the wind and my body and the trees and the clouds and so on, looking at each and every part and noticing them logically, but the synergy. It is the synergy that brings beauty, that sense of oneness, that sense of being lost or being surrendered in that beauty. Yes? In the same way, so it's exactly in the same way, this inner universe, the space of our soul, can be contemplated in a non-conceptual unity, in which emotions, states, are not just limited objects, but are included in this kind of space in which its sky and ground are just part of this undivided inner world. Therefore, we would become richer psychologically and spiritually if we refer to this inner world as a wholeness, in which a particular emotion or thought is definitely not all that we are, is not that wholeness that we are. I know sometimes, even in Tridaya, we have these heart circles and we want to share our emotions, and it's a beautiful way of sharing ourselves. But I would recommend to go even deeper, because the sharing in itself is beautiful, but the way in which it is done may be limited, because I just look in a dualistic way and I try to just objectify an emotion. But I am not just an emotion. So even when I share, why should I share just a personal perspective? Why should I share just a limited condition when I can discover myself and observe myself as much more than this? And then the heart circle will not be just a way of checking out emotions, but it can become a spiritual contemplation. We still can share, like we would share the beauty of the sunset, in which it's not about saying words, but is more of a poetical way of sharing. Yes, in the same way we should share about ourselves, is basically the same. Of course, for the easiness of our common psychological functionality, we divide things and consider that they are pairs of contraries, good and bad, this emotion versus the other emotion. And again, for the sake of the functionality in this world, this works. This can work, but this doesn't mean that this is the only reality of our inner world and all that is there. In the absence of thoughts, looking inside, you'll see that there is no particular emotion, just aliveness, flow. You know the soul as a vibrating space without specific emotions, but just this aliveness, just this presence. Then you can evoke an emotion, or you may come to an emotion by seeing, listening, but because of this sense of expansion, and because you acknowledge, we start to be used to acknowledge this space, this inner space, we realize that we are not just that emotion. You don't even have it. In the same way, you don't have the trees or the birds or the clouds or the sunset or sunrise. We don't have them. They are appearing there, they are flowing, they are coming and going in this space of awareness. So it is exactly as when we see outside objects, but then when we speak about beauty, it's not just about an object, but there is like an imprint of all that is there. As Rumi said in a beautiful poem, put this design in your carpet. No? Like in the old times, people, and even now, some carpets have a beautiful design. And Rumi said, any movement or sound is a profession of faith, as the millstone grinding is explaining how it believes in the river. No metaphor can say this, but I can't stop pointing to the beauty. Every moment and place says, put this design in your carpet. So every moment and place says, put this design. Put this design in your soul. Even now, this happened with self-awareness. This is actually self-awareness. When we open to the present moment, but not in a particular or in a grasping way, or it's just in this vastness, you put the design of this present moment in your soul. It's not greediness for beauty, but there is the conscious, pure mirror that makes all the difference. And this is practical. So try to do it now. How do I feel? How do I feel now? I don't need to name it. I'm just taken by the very beauty, wonderment of this different perspective, integrating perspective. You look at your soul with the same non-dualistic way in which you look at the sunset. So I used to look for states. Now I look mostly for that integration. So this may help us tremendously in our transformation, in our inner transformation, if we start seeing things holistically. If instead of seeing our world divided by just this definite, specific emotion, you start perceiving essentially a space, the light, or the sky, in which countless forms are flowing, displaying the beauty of this existence. And it is like this. So when I say I am angry or I am happy, or it's not just this. And you start realizing that it's much more than just an emotion there. We are used to or educated to go in this. Why not to be open to this? The external beauty of nature comes from a sense of integration, a sense of completion, and the same is true for the inner world. The way in which we see beauty outside is a way in which we see beauty inside. And then more and more, this separation inside, outside is not there, because you realize that even that sense of external beauty is because of inner beauty. And the integration is done because of this witness, of this pure awareness. Not just because of a psychological observer, oh, I have so many thoughts, or what should I do in this situation, or how should I behave now, or I feel this or that, but from that stillness. The observer is not seeing an emotion labeled anger or joy, but the whole spaceness, the whole beauty of this inner space. And this implies also that the observer is vaster than this space, since it embraces this space of our inner soul, or of this inner world. So if I observe a fear from a personal perspective, I may want to suppress it or deny it. Anyhow, a fight is there. But if I observe it from this unified field of awareness, it becomes just an element in this intricate unity of my soul. And it is not a denial of that specific emotion. It is even more clear the complexity and detailed structure of our soul. You may see there so many nuances, but without that confusing tendency which tends to come when we start to analyze with our mind, exactly that there is, in the way in which there is no conflict when there are clouds and there is still the sun and there are birds, and you don't feel that, oh, the clouds should not be there, or the birds are disturbing the waves and so on. In the same way, that sense of integration is there. And then I come to dissolve that anger or fear, not because my ego wants this, but out of a higher sense of harmony. It is not me that fights with an emotion, but a natural wisdom of being coming from this integrative awareness. And again, this is practical. This is very practical. Not looking just at an emotion or so. Let's do a short break for questions. I see some hands raised. Bhavana. you are...
No, that was a mistake. I'm sorry.
Okay, so no
Sorry.
question. Good.
No.
No problem. You can, even if you do a mistake, as I said, no stress, no problems. We are learning, and even if you do such, you can uncheck and then you bring the hand back. So, are there any questions? You can raise your hand there electronically. Yan, yes, please. Please, Yan.
You can hear me?
Yes, yes, Yan.
Okay, hi. Actually, I wanted to see if it would be, we brought some clarifications actually to the project, and I didn't know if it would be a good time now to announce those, what we decided to do, or if you would feel okay for.
Should we do it in the end? Maybe in the end, Yan. Let's
Sure.
just to
Okay.
keep the flow of the satsang, and then in the end we will do it. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Sahaja.
Yes, you are very welcome. So I see there are no other hands raised. Then I will close this. Sorry, I also need to learn how this works. So let's continue. Therefore, we cannot really control ourselves unless we accept ourselves totally. That means in this integrality. And again, practically, before we can change an emotion or the progression of an action, we first need this naked, honest perception, an open, integrative attention, a presence freed from labels, conceptualizations, projections, thoughts, ideas, to be totally honest with ourselves in that humbleness. Humbleness comes from the Latin humus, not the Israeli humus, but the Latin humus, which means ground. You become one with the ground. Total surrender. And there is not an observer who will want to fix things, but just that stillness. And thus, we will not go against our nature, but we will honor it, even when there are a lot of clouds on the sky of our consciousness in this domain of our soul, not just wanting to have instantly the clear blue sky. So there is anger or fear or frustration. In such a situation, the personal force that will intervene, pushing or forcing the unclouded sky to become a clear blue sky, will create definitely a tension. And it's not really possible. But this can happen only by having this holistic view, and there acceptance is. For example, when raining on a slippery road, in order to recover the car for sliding to the right, the driver must turn towards right, not towards left, as we would instinctively want to do, because this would cause the car becoming even more unstable. Yes, so when the road is slippery and we go to the right, the teachings are that we should go towards the right with the control, not to the left as we would want. And when we try to suppress our emotions or we fight with them, we are doing pretty much like this. The long conditioning makes us to always react, to fight inside or outside. But this non-labeling observance of ourselves is giving wisdom to go with the flow and to transform, not out of reactivity, but with the same grace of wholeness. This is the grace of the present moment, of being awake. And then I embrace that anger or that frustration. And because I'm not repressing and I flow with it, but I observe it, then we realize that it's just an energy that comes and goes. In the Oriental tradition, in both Hinduism and Buddhism, Sahaja is a very important concept, which means naturalness. Sahaja, born together, to be born together, in which samsara and nirvana are together, are born together. That means in every moment there is this perfection, nirvana, and samsara. Nirvana is not to be found somewhere else. And Ramana Maharshi, for example, he also spoke about this so-called Sahaja Samadhi, a state of cosmic consciousness, which is also a state of full naturalness, which is not about abstract transcendental realities or only about this, but this naturalness of being human with the same innocence and grace and absence of inner conflict in which a flower is a flower. It doesn't do anything in a pushing way or forcefully. And still, in its presence, the whole room is filled with perfume, with that beautiful flavor. In the Taoist tradition also, they speak about Wei Wu Wei, acting without acting. And the key is, again, this self-awareness, this integrative way. And Jesus also, in Matthew 6:28, he speaks about this freedom of the natural world and how we can learn from that. He said, consider the lilies, how they grow, the Greek lilies in the field, how they grow, of the field, how they grow. They don't toil, neither do they spin. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all his glory was ever arrayed as one of these. So it's not about doing hardly a thing, but it's more about this flow, this trust. Then we are not hurried in action. Actually, is not action, is a reaction that is happening all the time, a reaction to our thoughts, a reaction to circumstances, but we remain that unified, unbroken, humble flowing of presence. And this is what detachment means. Not being without emotions, not denying them, but a condition in which the emotions are not sticky or blocked. in this ego story. No, it happens. We have some problems, some issues, and we discuss them, and then sometimes people, yes, have from their clarity, okay, it was clear, now it's clear, and then somebody still remember, oh, but I still feel frustrated, I'm still feeling frustrated, I still have that frustration. Well, learn to observe that flow. Learn to allow that happen. Observe and observe and observe and observe. Don't blame others for your frustration. Then the experience of the inner and outer world come and pass like the reflection of flying birds over water. You recognize and you embrace. So I'm going to speak about what accepts your fears or accepts what your emotions really means. When we hear such an advice like accept your fear or accept your anger or accept your emotion, in general, it doesn't mean that you just have to be indulged in them and no matter what, to just, this is how I am easily frustrated, or I am angry, and this is acceptance. Why should I not accept this as well? So it's not about this. It's not even being aware of that. So you may say, well, I am aware. I'm aware that I'm frustrated. And I'm frustrated because I'm frustrated. No, sometimes it comes like this, and you have true frustrations. And this may still have that psychological meaning of self-awareness that can lead, as psychology confirms, to a situation of being blocked in that, being stuck in that emotion and obsessed with the control of it anyway. An attitude, no matter how you react there, it's an attitude conditioned by the same old personal reactions in connection to that situation. Also, I'm not saying to cut off all out of this selfishness, egotic tendencies, or out of moral reasons. It's not nice morally to be angry or violent or only because you want to stop that. I want to stop, and from now on I will not be jealous anymore. So even in such situations, this approach, even though it can work for a while, and you can deal with some particular situations, this is not the wisest approach because it is still dualistic. So we can indeed control, and this control, inner control, is useful for many emotional situations, but still it's dualistic. Still it's limiting because it happens still from that personal way. And this means simply missing that whole perspective about you and the capacity of act freely from that space of the soul, from that integrality of your soul. As that Sufi master Tarikavi said, until you find yourself, you cannot have real knowledge, only opinions based on habits. So we keep on whirling wildly around without clarity, in doubts, confusion, simply because we miss this overview. That's why it's so important to practice regularly meditation, self-inquiry, to surrender to stillness. In a formal way as meditation, but also more and more in this presence, in this self-remembrance. of the present moment. Because this is a non-conceptual knowledge. Sky of consciousness from where such personal emotions or conditionings like bulimia, addiction to, I don't know what, alcohol, drugs, jealousy, lying others or lying to ourselves, over criticism, addiction to internet, to computer games, to porn movies, to money, avarice, addiction to power, to social positions. This is also a thing that is not so much seen as a problem, but is an addiction. And exactly as people have a need to treat themselves psychologically for an addiction to food, they should be treated, or definitely the world would be much healthy if we would start treating people from addiction to power or to social position. I'm not saying that, you know, an aspiration to express yourself and to do this self-actualization is not legitimate and it's not beautiful. But when there is addiction to that, when there is an attachment, and unfortunately this is happening so often, then this is problematic. And then from that space of consciousness, we can really embrace all these problems as they are, blocked energies. It's a blockage. It's not a big deal. When we look honestly and seeing also the wholeness of our being, we have the same principle of exploring the inner world as we have for the so-called external world. The awareness of the present moment. So we speak about this awareness of the present moment. And this doesn't mean just a limited mental evaluating a conceptual view of objects and situations, trying to somehow grasp all that is here now. So what is present moment, you know, each and every thing that is here, and including my emotions and so on. It's not about grasping each of them, yes? The present moment doesn't mean neither just that eternal dimension of now, that transcendental dimension is that present moment is just the eternal moment, but together, samsara and nirvana, the phenomenal world and that transcendental dimension. So they are together now. And this is the present moment. This brings the real uniqueness, freshness, and actuality of the present moment. Now, we just apply the same understanding to the inner world. And then we don't look just as emotions and habits and react to them. We don't stay neither in a non-conceptual transcendental reality, which should be somehow passive, but we see them together. From there, the efficiency of transformation comes. So again, maybe you are more used with this affirmation, the awareness of the present moment. And maybe that resonates to you in this sense of a holistic view. But again, this doesn't refer just as external objects, but is about that beautiful embrace, that sense of eternity, in which both the so-called outer and inner dimension unify. So it's a way of contemplating myself. With my so-called anger and fear and addiction, I am present moment. And from there, the efficiency of transformation and the nuances of the refinement of such vision, embracing vision and trust will come. You know, that is not that emotion that is fighting with you or is overwhelming, but is that trust that embraces everything. But I know for most people, this freedom of oneness is missing because nobody introduced them to it. As in the Sufi tradition, you need somebody to introduce you to yourself. That's why this real, honest self-awareness is so important. The big problem with the ego-driven tendencies, with selfishness, with these blocked energies, I'm speaking about, that create this vicious circle of limiting habits supporting limiting beliefs, is that people don't really realize that they are there and this phenomenon is happening. A great Buddhist master who actually brought Buddhism in Tibet, Padmasambhava, said that we should descend with a view and ascend with a conduct. So all our spiritual journey should be a descending with a view, that means with this new view of this integrative view, and ascending with a conduct that supports such a vision, this integrality of being. But the reverse of what Padmasambhava said is also happening. We come with a view, this ignorant, selfish, fearful, obsessed, not caring view, and then the conduct, the behavior, the emotions are in tune with this ignorant view. So it's like supporting each other. And then again, we are stuck there. Self-awareness is like learning to zoom out. We just gain a different perspective, zooming out from the little you. Then you may have the surprise to see, while zooming out, to see not somebody else or something else, but a larger you, and then a larger you, and then a larger you, and so on, because love and compassion and beauty don't have limits. And because the seer, this mirror of awareness in which everything is seen, is infinite. So zooming out, it's me, and I observe myself from a wider perspective. It's like a vastness of the same present moment. And with that, at a certain point, even this idea of a limited individuality may drop, you may explode. But till then, so we don't need to stay in expectations or what will happen with this zooming. Till then, we just learn to zoom out. Now, and this is why, even in some forms of psychotherapy, and we will discuss maybe further in some satsangs about this, it was discovered that it is more efficient to direct the attention not in resolving some specific issues that a person has, but obtaining a psychological flexibility. So training or learning people to come to what we'll name a psychological flexibility. This is a concept, and more of such psychotherapies are approaching this psychological flexibility because this is healthy. A healthy soul has this flexibility. And this is another way of expressing this capacity of an impersonal view, this freedom. Not being stuck in, oh, but I still feel my frustration, I still have that impersonal view, flexibility. By understanding other perspectives, then it's not just my tiny point of view, it's a point of view. I have a whole horizon as a point of view. It's not a point of view anymore. It's a horizon of view. No, we don't express ourselves just as points. Nourishing our soul with being values is a way of learning about this integrity of our being. Why am I saying this? Because in beauty, love, compassion, spontaneity, non-labeling, zooming out, this psychological flexibility are much easier, or even happen spontaneously, naturally. So when I zoom out, beauty comes. And we may come to something astonishing, which seems at the same time new and familiar, recognizable. It is not an artificial work as all the personal work we do. No, it's not about working for creating or generating love or beauty, but a different kind of acting in which there is a search. This search, which can be, we can name it a longing, there is a search, a longing, then there is a discovery or a revelation, and then there is a confirmation, a grace at the same time. Search, discovery, and confirmation, longing, revelation, and grace at the same time. And this is the real meaning of the spiritual heart, this meeting and recognition of ourselves. Which is new, but at the same time, we know it is always there. In Taoism, Chang Yu said, Tao is that from which one cannot depart. That from which one can depart is not the Tao. This self-recognition, this self-awareness makes us that noble king of the Mother Earth we are needing now. So makes us that spiritual aristocrat in that similar sense in which an ideal aristocrat, being so sure of the position given to him by birth, has no need to control, manipulate, pretend, patronize, or boast. This is a real master. You know, it's a right by birth. You are not just body, mind, emotion, stories, but you are that presence. And because of this, you don't need just to fight for self-respect or to fight and have the frustration. You know that behind all these problems, stress, tension, you are. And you are breathing this beauty. So it is our duty, but this duty understood not in this sense of personal work, but of a presence. Is it our duty to bring alertness, vigilance, attentiveness, humbleness, devotion, sacredness, all these being values in our lives. And this fire of awareness, this longing will open the heart, will open the gates of heaven, we can say. Yes? The gates of heaven, which is this sky or space of our inner being. And this will bring back more profoundly all such qualities that now will start flowing freely, and they may even become impersonal, like pure love or pure grace. And now I'm going to offer you a practice, a very simple and efficient practice of contemplating the undivided inner world of our soul. So you consider this domain, this inner domain. You can close your eyes. This practice can be done, and it's better to be done in nature. It can be done even now, but in nature is even more easy, because while you contemplate this vastness of your being, you can look then at the sky. Just observe the sky, contemplate the sky. Or if it is not possible, evoke the sky. It can be at night, it can be during the daytime. You just look at the sky. You can even bend the head backward, looking, or if it's possible, you can lay down and watch the sky. You just watch the sky. Look at the sky. Just looking at the sky, and then trying to dissolve, or allowing, is not a trying with a personality, but in this me here, in this presence, this dissolution happens. You dissolve in the sky. You allow a sense of drowning yourself into the infinite sky. And you can meditate. You should meditate. Me and the sky are one. Exactly as Jesus say, me and the Father are one. You can meditate. Me and the sky are one. You can even now evoke the sky and feel that vastness, and feel that there is, a visualization or an effort to figure, to evoke the sky, which somehow appears outside us, but realizing at the same time that this sky is the space of our being. Not only that this visualization is happening in this, as yogis would say, this space of our mind, this Chit Akasha, the infinite space of consciousness. So not only that it's happening somewhere in this inner domain, but it is happening or is refers to ourselves. It's what we are. We are the sky. Me and the sky are one. Of course, the sky is not just physical sky, but is this sense of infinity. So now we acknowledge, when we are dissolved in it, we acknowledge this infinite, undivided space of awareness of our soul. In it, emotions, feelings, moods, states are all embraced. And alternate the awareness of the sky, this feeling of vastness outside, with the infinite awareness inside. And alternate in this way till you'll feel that there is no separation. The infinite sky is what I am. And literally practice it at least 20 minutes daily. And then feel the echoes of this practice in your soul as often as possible, ideally every moment. So I look at my soul and I see this sky in which, yes, emotions are or energies are coming and going, but what I feel is a sky, an infinite vastness of consciousness. With that freedom, with that beauty, with that expansion, with that love that contemplating the sky brings. And whenever you look to an emotion, whenever you feel, I'm frustrated, the sky. Remember the sky. Me and the sky are one. Or look at the sky. Whenever you are frustrated, wherever you are overwhelmed by fear, look at the sky. And stay and contemplate the sky. And stay with that. Stay with that till you'll see how the reorchestration of the energies will happen. And in that, slowly, that frustration, which is a stuck energy, like a knot of tensions, releases. And then everything flows there. You may realize that you were too busy in your life that you didn't have time to contemplate the sky since your childhood. I remember in one of the first retreats, I went out of the place I was staying and I just contemplated the sky for, I don't know how much, maybe 1 hour, maybe more. And it was interesting. That was a kind of beautiful synchronicity that a cloud of a heart appeared there. Of course, this is not relevant. It's just that in that moment, I realized that I didn't I didn't allow myself to look at the sky. Such a normal and such a natural way of honoring the sky. And then so much joy came from this, just by being one with the sky. People look so often at the earth, constantly. We build shelters, houses to protect ourselves, but somehow this prevents us to see the sky. to feel the infinite, being soaked in this holistic view of existence. And such recommendation of meditating on the sky can be found in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, can be found in tantric writings. For example, in Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, we have Sutra 84 about contemplating the sky without moving, without blinking, just contemplating the sky, just like this. And then it's another sutra, Sutra 92, in which we see consciousness as the vast sky. So we meditate as the vast sky of consciousness. This consciousness is like a vast sky. And this is all. So you see, it's very simple. And I remember a very beautiful description of a great mystic, of a woman from the Kashmir Shaivist tradition, from Krama tradition. She is not very well known in the West for sure, Keyuravati. And there is a quote by Jayarata who speaks about this woman. He said, "I give honor to Keyuravati, that famous goddess of a woman who lived without a home. It is said that because of the flood of the immortal nectar triggered from repeatedly fixing her gaze in the sky of consciousness, she radiated an effulgence that came from constantly identifying the entire universe as one with her very self." Meditating on the sky, and then we see this sky of consciousness. The sky is a universal symbol expressing heaven, who guarantees the fecundity of earth through this water, to this rain, which is often seen as grace or compared to grace. And in any tradition, in most of traditions, heaven or sky is associated with this divine being, a direct manifestation of transcendence, of sacrality, of power, of this everlasting life which no earth dweller can attain. So it is only by integrating this principle, this sacredness of the sky, which is again about this, it's not about just the physical space, but about all that symbolic expression that the sky brings. So the whole nature of the sky is this inexhaustible expression of sacredness, of grace, this so-called hierophany, the manifestation of the sacred. This would be hierophany. And all these manifestations, like the movements of the stars, the thunderbolts, the meteors, the rainbows, all are the expression of this grace. And in Sufi tradition, the Sufi tradition, some would say that the heaven is within your soul rather than the heaven or is outside. And this had even a direct consequence in astrology. Astrology is seen as a domain of an inner domain. All the stars, the zodiacs, the planets moving in this heaven of our soul. The Sufi Abu Yaqub was very much referring to this. It is even very interesting to just open ourselves to this new understanding, or to a different understanding of how people of other times were feeling the world and we're feeling the sky. Because when we look at our world in this scientific approach, we tend to see things separately. We come into this zooming in and just focus on a thing or another, but this creates a kind of separation from the observer, which was not the case in the medieval times, for example. We may say that, yes, in those times, people didn't know what we know now scientifically. Yes, but this didn't stop Shakespeare or Goethe or so many to be open and experience beauty and love, maybe in a more profound way and in a more harmonious way than we are experiencing now. And the fact that we are knowing about the chemistry of love and what endorphins are involved there is not an argument for being more knowledgeable in the fullest sense of love. Yes. So you can imagine the medieval person who would go and see, definitely they were more intimate with nature, and then when they will look at the sky, let's say the sky at night, they will see the stars, and there will be this strip of the zodiac, and then there will be the planets which are moving on some spheres. That was that theory that even Newton, so even the science at that time was confirming that it's a music of the cosmic spheres, and that music can be heard, but it's what yoga would name nada, so that subtle aspect. And people would be at least open to that, and at least trying to acknowledge that. So moving in a universe which is alive and has a lot of meanings, and then seeing the stars and seeing the planets, you would understand that there is a connection between, as astrology would name, between the moon and the silver, and the sun and the gold, and the Venus and copper, and so on. Pretty much the same we acknowledge with the chakras. But this idea of a microcosm and macrocosm was something organic. So it was, what I'm saying, it was a different way of seeing the world. And I repeat, scientists like Newton, Blaise Pascal, and so many at that time were very much involved in such a vision. Even alchemy as a way of an inner transformation, finding that eternal reality, that goal of the spiritual realization. So all those visions were related to human aspiration to know themselves and the whole cosmos. So the point is that all that vision that people from other ages or other times had brought somehow more integration, brought somehow more a sense of communion than we have. And then now, by acknowledging this openness to the sky, we are simply opening to this new way of understanding the world. And what is ultimately significant is not so much a technique, the particular technique that we do, but this inner awareness. So it's not just about looking at the sky, but for sure, looking at the sky, the inner awareness is changed. You'll see it's not about focusing only on objects, being a servant of so many stuff, but being a servant of infinity. So opening to that and learning about that. So anyhow, what is significant is not the technique, a particular technique in itself, but this inner awareness, this inner fire, and in the end, the dissolution of the doer, of that which is doing the technique. You are not doing the technique, but you are just dissolving in that. So we can say that the requisite is not a new kind of technique, but a new kind of human being. In Taoism, it is said, when the wrong man uses the right means work in the wrong way. When the wrong man uses the right means work in the wrong way. And the vice versa is valid as well. If we have that awareness, everything can be transformed. So this task of developing a new kind of human being by this inner non-violent revolution is not as difficult as it seems when we realize that this inner revolution is essentially about this self-awareness. And it is not about a conflict between some parts of ours, but an embrace. A cooperation which has a higher principle, this observer, this stillness, this present moment. Only from there can be the naturalness, that effortless. Otherwise, there is still the personality, and still the personality can help, and there can be a technique and so on till a certain point, but then it is also the time to just surrender. I wanted to present some little other ideas about the ineffable and about what we can name a homeostasis, a new homeostasis. I will explain about this, but I would rather explain this in the next satsang, next Monday. And I will rather open again to questions. So somebody asked, Gabriela David, is there any help of the psychological awareness in the process of self-awareness, and what is that, and what is its place? Of course, the psychological awareness is valuable because it teaches us about this awareness. So it's a way of training our attention, our presence, our mind. We are aware. We learn, as in the Buddhist tradition, in Vipassana, in Theravada approach, is mostly this shamatha, the first stage, in which we bring the awareness of our breath, of our way in which sensations are coming, or the awareness of our thoughts. But this is just a first stage. They are also recognized. We don't acknowledge too much this, and people in the West don't really know. They tend to take Vipassana as just this awareness of sensations or breath and so on, anapanasati, the sensation of breath, or following this. But this is just the first stage, shamatha, which prepares us for this, what they name Vipassana, or Laktong in the, we have Shine and Laktong in the Mahamudra tradition. Laktong would be the insight. And insight is Laktong in Tibetan, and in Pali, this Vipassana, which is this self-awareness in a deeper sense. This revelation of, as Buddha would speak about, this nothingness. So we have a training. It's necessary to bring this psychological awareness in order to learn to be aware of ourselves. So this is the role of it, of our sensations, emotions, a training of the mind, a training of the mind. And this is the role, becoming self-aware, learning to have this psychological awareness first. But then we should not be stuck there, or we should not remain there, but we should learn also this zooming out, this spiritual awareness. Yes? So then it's important, because sometimes we just, as I said, we do these heart circles, and we just learn about this psychological self-awareness, about the awareness of my emotions. I feel like this, or I feel like that. Who cares? Who cares how I feel now? I am. And in this I am, what I feel is changing. Because I felt, or I imagined, or I perceived. Yes, it's an objective way of seeing. Yes, now it's like this or like that. Is that emotion? But in this I am, the dynamic of this inner world is changing. And now it's different. So yes. Are there other questions? It will be good to also raise your hand if you have some questions, because otherwise I don't really know how to. It seems that these are more of the private chat, but more than this. I don't see. Yeah, also, if you want, maybe now is the time. I will also want to conclude with beautiful kind of blessing of solitude of John O'Donoghue. But before this, Ian. Yes, Ian.
Hi, Sahaja. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Hi,
Well,
thank you. Thank you so much for satsangs, Sahaja. Nice to see you.
Nice to see your picture as well. And to hear you.
That'll have to be it for now, yeah. Hello to everybody that's here. And I just wanted to make a small clarification and also announcement about this fundraising that we're doing between the Anahatama and Hridaya Sanghas. And so first of all, for everybody that's either contributed or posted on their walls or done any kind of thing to get the word out there, thank you so much. It's been it's been incredible what has happened. We've been able to raise and hit our original goal in less than 3 days, which was the time that we had allotted to raise this amount of money. With that, there's been a lot of people. I woke up this morning to many messages saying, please don't close the GoFundMe link because I just posted it on my wall and I still want to donate. And many people came saying this. So we made a very kind of, a last minute decision this morning between me and Sahaja and Dave. Well, kind of Sahaja, because we didn't get the message quite in time, but we decided to keep the fundraiser open for a continuous amount of time as there's so much support coming. So we're going to use the money that we've raised now to feed this area of approximate 500 families in a slum in Kerala. And we're going to keep the fundraising open and attempt to keep support coming to the same area for a continued week, because indeed we've raised enough money for 1 week, but then of course the next week is coming and India has just extended the lockdown by 2 weeks. So there's going to be more time. And with so much support coming in, our team that is there in India, we have the capacity to keep this going. So we will just keep it open. So anybody that wants to continue to promote it and to continue to donate or reach out to friends and family, this is what is needed most in India right now, is this food for these families that are cut off from supplies. So when there's support coming, why not keep it going and keep this spirit alive while we have this momentum going and all this abundance is coming in for them. So I just wanted to bring this clarification to everybody to let everyone know what we're doing with the project. We'll make announcements about this online as well on Hridaya platforms and on the Anahatama platform. And so yes, indeed, if you haven't donated yet, you can go to gofundme.com/food4India and donate there. You can also take this link and post it to your Facebook timelines or anywhere else. 100% of the donations are going directly to the families. There's no overhead costs except for a little bit of petrol for the car that we need to run to get to go to the village to get the food supplies and to go to the village where the families are. So really 100% minus this very small amount for some petrol is going to directly to the families. And we're taking videos and pictures and have a transparency financial report also to follow up for everybody to see. And we will share this also on the social medias. So yes, this is all. Yes, most welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you to everybody. Thank you.
Yes, there is another question. So just to echo what Jan said, it matters so much. For us may not matter. What matters, $6. And you may say, well, I don't have enough. Still, $6 you may have. It's also a sense of trust and compassion and thinking about the others. It's useless. What we are speaking here is useless if we are not able to do this. It's simply like this. Another question, can we also learn further about our emotions and sensations, meaning can they also provide us important information about us? Yes, we will speak about this in self-awareness and how they can point to this pure awareness. Yes, we are speaking about self-awareness. Of course, this part of our being cannot be ignored, and how in this integrality of our being, all these are flowing. I managed to meditate so deep without expectation. So, Jose, that sometimes it is calling to me back, like a craving. But I remain present when I am being back in my body. It is a hidden cleaning process, or is it really stillness craving? I'm pretty close to Nidra state. Nidra is sleep, conscious sleep, I guess, but I would love to get some advice from you. However, at work it's so beautiful. I'm happy that this continues and echoes in your work, and it's good to remain present when you are back in the body and in the daily life. And again, this is not in conflict, understanding that there is no conflict, or rather said, it is possible not to be any conflict. And let that craving, that longing for the sky be there, for that infinite consciousness be there. No limits. There is no concern that this will be too much. If in that psychological self-awareness we just saw that, yes, too much may be or may create problems, in this spiritual self-awareness, you can go as deep and as much as possible, and you'll see that there is just more grace and just more flow. Or, as in the Sufi tradition, they would say, to be drunk inside and sober outside. You go to your work and it's just flowing in what is happening there, and you are drunk inside. Inside there is so much acceptance, harmony, beauty, gratitude, because of this self-awareness. Yes. So if there are no other questions, I will conclude with a blessing of solitude by John O'Donoghue, a great poet. May you recognize in your life the presence, power, and light of your soul. May you realize that you are never alone, that your soul in its brightness and belonging connects you intimately with the rhythm of the universe. May you have respect for your own individuality and difference. May you realize that the shape of your soul is unique, that you have a special destiny here, that behind the facade of your life, there is something beautiful, good, and eternal happening. May you learn to see yourself with the same delight with which God sees you in every moment. Let's conclude with a short moment of centeredness in the heart, seeing this vastness of this inner world, contemplating it as we would contemplate a sunset with no words, just wonderment and freedom and beauty. feel the sky in your heart.